All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Patrolling in Paradise, the podcast. My name is Chris.
And I'm Gabriella.
And we are your public information team with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. So thank you for joining us again. We're happy to be back, happy to have you on the show. Speaking of having people on the show, why don't you introduce our guest?
So we are joined today by the wonderful John Stewart. John, go ahead and say hello.
Hello.
Perfect. Nailed it. All right. That's
Perfect.
the show, everybody. Thanks
And
so
goodbye.
much. We appreciate you.
So,
No, I'm kidding.
John, go ahead and tell everyone what you do here at the Sheriff's Office.
So I wish I knew. Currently, I am the communications supervisor, one of the communications supervisors, but in 35 days, I'm going to be taking over as the 911 manager, 911 coordinator for Charlotte County.
That's exciting. Aren't you excited?
Yeah, I've been training full-time for it for the past year, and I've really been working towards it since about 2018, so it's actually happening.
A dream fulfilled.
Yes.
Nice.
So you'll be filling some pretty big shoes there with Lori Anderson, who's done a fantastic job in that field, in that area. Really took that position and built it into something that I don't think even our community really understands. And to be frank, neither do I, what goes into all of that stuff. So hopefully you can shed a little bit of light on that here today with us and just give our community, our listeners, just a peek behind the curtain of what happens when they call 911.
Yeah, like you said, some very big power heels to fill. And I'm still working my way into them. So as the 911 coordinator, you're basically just going to be the single point of contact for all things related to 911 with that county. Every county has one, so there's 67 in total in Florida. And they act as the liaison between the state, the Board of County Commission, the sheriff, police chief, anything that goes into the 911 system. You'll be the single point of contact.
Okay.
Basically, the job for me is just to help the helpers. We apply for and manage grants. We implement upgrades and new features. Basically, anything I can do to make the difficult job of a dispatcher just a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
I think that's kind of a well-put phrase to make the difficult job of a dispatcher a little bit easier, because it really is a difficult job, what they do back there. Now, you were back there previously, so what was it like for you to transition so that you're not the guy that answers that phone all the time anymore? Now you're more of the guy who's coordinating how to help them. What's that transition like for you?
Oh, it's difficult. I really actually had that transition just going from a line dispatcher to a supervisor, and having that same transition of no longer being the person to answer the call, but to help the people that answer the call. So this next transition is basically just building up on that for me.
Okay. How frequently would you say you work with, you said there's 67 people. I don't want to say people like you because there's nobody like you. But there's 67 people in positions similar to the one that you're moving into. So how often do you work with those people, and what's that like? Yeah,
pretty regularly. So one of the things we do is when we do these upgrades, sometimes they're regional projects. Right now we're working on a GIS or a map system with 14 other counties. And so instead of having 14 separate maps that we use for 911, we've created one giant one where we've stitched together all of the boundaries to make sure it's nice and flush.
Oh, nice.
And that's a project
wow.
we're working on with 14 different counties that originally was supposed to be just Region 6, but it's about doubled in size as people and counties have wanted to add on to their maps to our own.
That's incredible. So how many years as a dispatcher, well, I guess in total, do you have in this career?
So 4 days after my takeover of the 911 coordinator, I'll have my 14th year here.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Very nice.
So definitely seasoned, definitely know your way around the communications room for sure.
Yeah, not so much the admin side of this building, though. I still get lost.
We do too. Don't feel bad.
Sometimes I get lost on purpose. Don't tell anybody.
Just walk around with a clipboard. Everybody thinks you're working.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Walk fast and carry something. That's the secret. So, John, we brought you on the show, and we were going to talk about from a community standpoint. When I call 911, what happens. And I think that's kind of a cool concept that people don't really know what happens when they think it's just a phone call. But there's so much more that goes into that phone call on your end of that. Can you shed some light on that? What's it like?
I can try. Yeah,
All right.
It's I think you could spend a whole lifetime trying to figure out how the 911 system actually truly works.
Okay.
So right now we use what's called enhanced 911. So we've built up upon the 911 system to now we incorporate routing based on location. And the way we get this location is through cell towers, or what's called an MSAG, or just a giant list of all of our addresses that are in Charlotte County.
Okay.
So your address would be listed in this file, and it'll tell you this is in Charlotte County, or this is in maybe Punta Gorda, and it'll route that call if it's a landline based on that.
Okay.
But with the introduction of cell phones, now we're going to be using cell towers as those address points. And so the cell tower can say, well, it's on this direction of my cell tower, and route you based on that location instead.
But it can't be pinpoint, right?
Correct.
Okay.
They can get close, and then there are FCC rules on how accurate it's supposed to be. But as we transition to NG911 or Next Gen 911, instead of using cell towers for this location, we're going to be using the phone's innate GPS signal.
Okay.
And this is something that like Uber and all these other food delivery apps already use. So we're a little behind the ball there, but we're working on providing this emergency service to our community to get more accurate locations. Anything we can do to improve the level of service and make dispatching just a little bit easier.
And that quickens that response time, and it makes it more accurate. So
Right.
I'm not driving around saying, oh, which house is it that's having this issue? It'll help me pinpoint that a little bit
Right.
clearer.
That's
Okay.
so
Yeah.
fascinating.
Really cool.
That must be so cool to, I do something completely different for a living. So to hear you talk about it, it's just so in depth and the technology, and that's just unreal.
Yeah, it's really cool to be getting in here just before it all changes. So I get
Yeah.
to see the both before and after, but learning two different systems at the same time has proved very
That's
challenging for me. Yeah.
So, so is this the prepared live, or is that something different? We were talking before.
Yeah, that's going to be something different.
Okay.
But it's just another tool that we've been implementing to help our dispatchers. So with Prepared Live, it's where it's a totally separate app from 911. So it's something that we can use to send an outbound text to our caller, and it basically sends them a link and asks for consent. By clicking this link, will you can you share your video, your camera feed with us? And if they opt to do that, they can share their camera feed with us and provide a live stream of the events that are unfolding in front of them.
Oh, wow. So like FaceTiming with the 911 dispatcher.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
One way,
Wow.
though.
And I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you give an example of a 911 call where this would be critical?
Yeah, so a lot of times we get callers who don't really know where they are, especially since we have I-75. There are a lot of callers who don't even know what county they're in when they're calling. They're just driving north or south on I-75. Prepared Live gives us a way to, maybe they can show us their surroundings. Let's say the location isn't working very well. They can share their locations. They can show us, landmarks around them, and our operators, who most of them who live in Charlotte County, will be a lot more familiar with their locations.
Sure.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, we can also use it for maybe like a hazardous situation. They can show us something that they think is hazardous, and we can relay that to our first responders so that there are no surprises when they show up.
So we work in our agency. We cover the emergency response for the law enforcement side, but we also do the fire and EMS side, right?
Right.
How does that work as far as when somebody calls in? Let's say I call in and I have a fire at my home, but it's a CCSO dispatcher that answers that call. Is that correct?
Probably.
Okay.
So we have 3 911 centers in Charlotte County. We have the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, which does police, fire, and EMS. We have the Punta Gorda Police Department, which does fire and police for their incorporated city limits.
Okay.
We also, as the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, we dispatch EMS even for anywhere in Punta Gorda PD's jurisdiction.
Okay.
And then we also have a backup center where both agencies share at the Emergency Operations Center.
Okay.
Oh,
So that's all hands on deck. We've got 3 different areas, and I know our new building's going to have a more of a solid foundation for our first responders, or for our dispatch center, excuse me. So that'll be a hardened facility too, right?
So the EOC is already a hardened facility. The issue there is just that it's not geographically diverse.
Okay.
It's literally down the street from us right now.
Right.
So having, two centered hardened facilities that we can be at, depending on where an emergency might be taking place. Maybe if there's a meteorological event that should not be named is heading our way, we can determine where the storm surge might be worse, and we can deploy to whichever center is better suited for that situation.
Gosh, wouldn't it be nice to have a meteorological event that doesn't have to be named at this point? I mean,
Yeah. I'm done
unbelievable.
with named meteorological events.
All right, John. So Prepared Live lets us kind of live stream with the 911, with the dispatchers. We also have the option to text to 911 in Charlotte County. And can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so that was a statewide initiative, and right now, all but I believe 3 counties can receive text to 911. So in the event that maybe you can't make a call, or for anyone who might be deaf or hard of hearing, this is another avenue of reaching a 911 operator. However, if you have the ability to call 911, it is a lot faster, and you're going to get service a lot, just a lot faster, more responsive through a phone call than a text. Waiting back and forth for text messages, it definitely delays the response.
Gotcha. But it's a good option if you don't have the ability to talk.
Right.
If I'm hiding in the closet and somebody's in my house, for example, I don't want to be making a phone call.
Right.
And I want to make sure that my text, it doesn't do that click, click, clickety click every time I push a button. So
Yeah.
turn that off, folks, because that's annoying for the rest of us anyway. But
Yeah, a text to 911 is still better than no 911 at all.
correct. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about you, John. What makes John tick? Didn't see this question coming. I didn't prep him for this one.
Yeah, you specifically said no curveballs here. Yeah, so I guess, like I said, I started around 14 years ago. I had the idea of becoming a police officer, and I thought, well, if I become a dispatcher, it should be a nice, easy way for me to get a foot in the door. I'm sure I could be good at it. I play video games all the time, right?
Sure.
And I was humbled completely when I was training to be a dispatcher. And I guess that's kind of where my passion for it came in, and I haven't wanted to leave since.
Nice.
Wow.
It's a cool story
Yeah, that's an awesome story.
for a curveball question.
And look at you now. You're about to step into definitely some big shoes and in charge of a lot of important things for the communications team.
Yeah, it's just an honor, really, to be in a position where I can, make a difference for the people who make differences, right?
Well said. Very well said.
You're talking about a position that is directly or indirectly, however you want to look at it, responsible for saving lives. I mean, that's what dispatchers do. And, they're so often the unsung heroes of the agency. And, I tell them all the time when I go back there and we do our presentations to the new recruits as they're coming in and going through their training, I say, communications is the heartbeat of the agency. It really is. It's the pulse. Everything goes through that center. And if that call doesn't come in, we don't get dispatched. So your first responders don't respond, and that means you don't get the treatment that you need or the safety that you need or whatever it might be. So, I think it's important to recognize that the work that you're doing, and now you moving into an even bigger role, and you've got this passion, like you said, that's the word you used. And I think it's appropriate because you really do have a passion, and you're going to have an influence on the next group of people that are coming in and doing that. So, hats off to you for taking this responsibility. And as Gabriella said, the huge shoes that you're going to be filling coming into that. And Lori did a great job. And now you've got to come in and you've got to do it John Stewart's way. And we look forward to what that's going to look like and what that's going to be. So, we're going to end the show with that. But last call for anybody who may be interested in becoming a dispatcher. If you are thinking, hey, you know what? It worked for John Stewart, so why wouldn't it work for me? Why won't I develop that passion too? You absolutely can do that. Just go to our website, ccso.org, click on Career Opportunities, and we're always looking for communications operators, more people like John to come in here and make a difference and save lives. So With that, we're going to call it a day here, but thank you everybody once again for listening to Patrolling in Paradise, the podcast. Once again, I'm Chris.
And I'm Gabriella.
And we were joined by John Stewart, Communications Supervisor and soon-to-be 911 Manager. And we'll see you guys all next time.